lovely listeners. I'm Sarah Cudmore from Homegrown Learning in partnership with Collage, the app for storing all your home learning neatly in one place, creating a wonderful portfolio of learning for your young people. It's so hard for home educating parents in the UK to work out what to do in terms of getting qualifications for their young people. And each local authority should have signposts to help families, but we know that that differs very much according to what local authority you're with. And there are some really useful websites, but again, it takes a lot of research to try and find those websites. I will list a few of those that might help some of you who are in the position of thinking about what exams, what qualifications your young people might want. So I'm really grateful to have with me today Amelie and her mum Kathryn, and Amelie's given up her time today to sort of share with us her journey, her story, and her mum's going to chip in with kind of what it felt like from the parents' perspective as well. So welcome to you both, and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
So we'll dive straight into the questions. And so, Amelie, were you always home educated, and was it your choice, or was it kind of parent choice? What was that initial journey like?
So I wasn't always home educated. I started out at kind of quite a posh school,
nursery school.
We had to wear like blazers to class and everything like that. So I had, you can imagine what that was like. I don't have very many memories of it, but I do remember it being quite uptight. But then I was only in there for 2 or 3 years before Mum took me out and put me in a Steiner kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had 1 year in a Steiner school. But again, I don't have very many memories of that because it was quite a while ago. I would have been like 5 or 6 at the time, maybe 7 at the oldest.
Yeah.
My defining memories of that are like walking in the woods and things like that and drawing with crayons. But most of my schooling experience was in primary and secondary, a proper established primary and secondary. And then in year 8, I left school fully and became properly home educated for that period. And that was it was mostly my choice, but for all things you need the parents to agree.
Mm-hmm.
And things were okay in primary, but they started to kind of slip towards secondary. I was getting bullied, I wasn't happy, I wasn't learning very much, and I'd always expressed that I wanted to get out of school, but it was Mum who really took the wheel and went, okay. There was one incident with physical bullying, and that was kind of the end of the line. And Mum really took the reins and went, we're not sending you back.
No,
this isn't good for you. You're not going to be happy. If the school environment can't change, we should take you out of it. And I think it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, if I'm being honest. Yeah.
And did you, how the transition between school and home, did you because I found particularly in a lot of the home ed groups that I'm in, when teenagers come into the groups, it feels quite hard for them to sometimes initiate friendships and things. Was that hard for you, or did you sort of remain friends with some of the friends that you'd had from school?
I don't think I remained friends with. I had one friend who I've stayed in contact with to this day.
Mm-hmm.
But that was somebody that I met in the later part of secondary. I'm not in contact with anyone I knew from primary.
No.
I think because I had experience quite young transitioning from normal school to Steiner to normal school again, kind of coming out the other end, I knew what to expect. And the idea of being home from school was such a relief because of all that anxiety, that it didn't feel that hard to transition. It was very, I kind of had a gut instinct as to what to expect, and I was so excited for it that it felt like quite a smooth transition. It was less of a job to do and more of letting go of a big burden and you know, waking up in the morning and going, I don't have to go in, I don't have to see these people who've been being mean to me. But yeah, this friend and I was friends with, we dropped out of contact after I left because I was only 13, 14, and I wasn't really experienced with the kind of adult way of keeping friends where you contact them regularly, because at school, the benefit of school is you're around people all the time. It's also a downside, you're around people all the time. You don't really learn how to organize things outside unless you're quite a social person who likes doing that sort of thing, especially when I was still a bit of a young teenager. And it was only in college when I reconnected with this friend, because we ended up going to the same college. But yeah, as far as transitions, I knew what I was expecting. I think that was a big benefit for me. I think someone who has no experience with homeschooling might find that quite difficult, like the shock of suddenly there's nobody around except you and whoever's teaching you, whether that's your parents or a tutor online or something. I can imagine why that would be difficult, but for me personally, I don't think it was, especially since my parents were brilliant. You know, I think I'll be singing their praises a lot throughout this, because, you know,
I'll pay you later.
Mum organized things, mum taught me, dad taught me. It was,
but you did go to Red River, didn't you? 2 days a week.
So that I had a kind of social gathering, something to go to, somewhere to learn something, but other than that, you
did make a couple of nice friends there, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm in contact with a lot of those friends. But
and it's interesting what you said, Sarah, because that's Amelie said that the kids who came straight out of school and went to Red River, and I imagine this is similar with any kind of little learning community, you said that the whole way of thinking about friendships and behaving together was different, and so that transition from secondary into a learning community, they kind of bring that expectation of aggro and drama and cliques. And
I remember my first day at my kind of home education group that we met up for social purposes mostly. First day I went in, it was a group of people my age or older, and I was expecting to have to be on guard, but everyone was so kind and welcoming and just like extending the hand of friendship immediately. And I remember on the drive home after the first day, I said, Mum, everyone's so nice. And she went, yeah, that's what adults are like. School is such a strange environment. You're not like that anywhere else unless you go to prison.
No, no, it is a very bizarre concept when you think of it like that, isn't it? And so when you started off that home education journey, did you go into it in the same sort of style as school would be, where you kind of had your subjects? How did you organize what you were going to learn and when?
There was like a month or so where I didn't really know. I was doing like projects on my own, but at the time it was things I was interested in. So I was doing projects on like local wildlife, and I'd pick one aspect of the local wildlife and learn it for a week. I spent a week teaching myself about badgers and cormorants. And I think it was mum and dad who did most of the sort of actually organizing an IGCSE curriculum, getting a tutor.
If I just chip in first, that sort of transition in year 8, year 9 kind of age, I'd read the book Project-Based Homeschooling.
I'll put that in the show notes actually.
And I've also got the biggest Steiner curriculum book. So I kind of went, and I got a Steiner maths book as well.
I forgot about that.
And so we kind of went, okay, the things that you really hated about school were maths. So I wanted to try and reintroduce maths in a completely different way. So we went out in the garden and
we got I learned about the golden ratio and Pythagorean theorem based on plants. So we would take like leeks and cabbages, cut them at the base, and then put ink on it, and then print the pattern, and you would see that it's the spiral of the golden ratio, and it's like, wow, oh my god, suddenly maths is interesting again.
So I wanted to kind of flip maths on its head a bit and just make it like not about coordinates and timesing fractions together, and make it more about like maths in the real, like in nature, because I knew you were interested in that. And then also the project-based homeschooling. So I just sort of looked at what she would have been learning in Steiner School and sort of steered you gently in that kind of direction. But at the same time, with that kind of deep diving, so she would say, right, okay, I want to study seabirds, and I go, okay, you know, let's pick a seabird, and then ask more questions, and then making sure that you had access to, like, we went to the library, got books, we got, you know, obviously there's the internet and all that kind of thing.
They were making sure that I was actually doing things with my time, because I knew one or two homeschool children who they basically had been taken out of school and then had been let to run free. And at that age, you don't really know how to direct yourself properly yet. And there were a couple of people I knew who really struggled with like academics and writing. And this was just a way of, like, before GCSEs, like having a bit of fun with learning, like learning to ask questions again and enjoy asking questions and enjoy wanting to teach yourself something rather than dreading having to sit there and listen to somebody drone on about the same subject again.
I think that's where there's a bit of a step between primary and secondary, because although I know, you know, things in primary schools are pretty pressure orientated still, but there's more opportunity. It's slightly more fluid, it's slightly more flexible, with having one teacher and not having to move spaces for different lessons and finish a lesson promptly on time to ask those kind of questions. And I think it is a bit of a struggle for young people when they suddenly go into secondary, and it's like, you know, bell rings, go, everyone, you know, it's sort of so regimental, isn't it? And that doesn't fit with like people's thinking, does it? It's not fluid.
It feels like it was set up 200 years ago to teach you how to work in a factory, and then never changed.
Well, you're quite right. that is exactly, that's why there's so many people.
You speak when spoken to, you eat when the bell rings, you stop eating when the bell rings, you turn your brain on, then you turn your brain off, and then you go home and you sleep for 6 hours exactly, because that's what everyone does, because we're all robots.
A lot of young people I've spoken to who have sort of dipped into school, done it the other way, where they've home educated and dipped into school to see what it's like, have really struggled with the whole relationship with the teacher and them, and how didactic it is, and why is that like that, and you know, that kind of sort of not understanding, not being able to sort of see adults on the same level. So
well, we talked about that. A big part of homeschooling is learning that sorry, my dog just walked in.
That's all right.
A big aspect of home learning is learning that adults deserve your respect because they have experience, not just because you should respect all adults ever. And it was a jarring going from a home learning environment where I went to a Steiner school where I spoke to my teachers on a first name basis as equals, and then going into school where you just did not ever question your teacher. Your teacher was like the god in the classroom. Even breathing out of turn or laughing at something was a problem. And
I mean, it makes it sound like you went to Borstal. It wasn't quite that bad.
Beaten, but I think
but there is a real lack of trust from the adults that you're with, that you know, it's sort of, that's what it feels like to me, is that the adults don't trust that you will know the right thing or do the right thing, and so they have to. It's a bit like I've heard recently about all this, so many schools are doing 1 in 1 out of toilets, and toilets all being locked up at break times and lunch times, and it's like, really, have we got to that state where we, you know, really can't trust young people to go to the toilet sensibly?
And that's the thing, like my class, we were the in my homeschool environment, my class were like the eldest of the group, and there was I remember there was such a mutual respect between the students and the teachers, you know, in the same way that when your friend speaks to you, you stop talking. When the teacher speaks to you, you stop talking, because you want to listen to what they have to say. And you know, we were allowed to go use the microwave, and at break time, so long as they knew where we were, we could go anywhere in the building. We weren't relegated to one room or one courtyard, and that was such a healthy environment for learning to trust adults and speak to them, but also question them if you need to, and kind of go, well, you know things, but I also know things. This is a transactional relationship.
And then sort of going into the qualifications and the GCSEs, how did you come about deciding you know, what you were going to do. I know you did your GCSEs over 2 years, so how did you organize that? How did you decide what you were going to do, when you were going to do it?
I think answer that bit.
I think, well, we
can
always
talk about the
there's the administration side of it, which is what
and
you
then
know.
You can talk about the study part.
Yeah. Do you want to go first?
If I go first, I'll explain what we did.
Yeah. So some people say that Mum and I sound quite similar, so you might want to say you're speaking.
So basically, we sat down with Amelie and we said, right, okay, what do you want to be when you grow up? Not kind of like specifically, like what job do you want, but what area do you think you want to go into? And she was quite clear. She's like, arts, creative arts. It's going to be either writing or painting or drawing, but it's going to be creating. And we were like, okay, that's fine. So that means, you know, you don't want to be a doctor, you don't want to be a vet. So there's certain things that we can just relax a bit about and just say, okay, you need to get your minimum in maths. We'd like you to get a minimum level of like science education, because we think that's really important just to go about your daily life.
Avoid misinformation.
Understanding how your body works, understanding how the world works. It's just, you know, it's just useful stuff. But everything else we will gear towards what you want to do in the future. And so from that, we kind of worked out that you needed to, the GCSEs that you wanted to do were, go on.
I wanted to do English language, English literature, history, but specifically international history, as well as French. But that was just because I liked French.
That wasn't really enjoyed French.
That wasn't any particular like I want to pursue a career in French. I just really enjoyed learning languages. And
so French, English, history, science, maths, and then
I did an arts,
and then through Red River, she did her Silver Arts Award, which was sort of like moving into that kind of art thing.
And in the second year,
I knew that was available.
Yeah, and in the second year, I did a...
Wait for that.
Yeah,
don't.
Spoilers.
So with that information, we then found Oxford Homeschooling, which is an online curriculum, and we decided to buy the curriculum package for the subjects that she wanted to do. So we also kind of sat down and we said, right, well, rather than tackling all of these GCSEs all in your year 11, we will do 3.
Well, originally it was 4.
We were going to do go for 4 GCSEs in year 10, and then 3 or 4 in year 11, depending on kind of how things worked out. So she could really focus like that year. And so I bought, basically you buy the package from Oxford Homeschooling, which gives you access to an online tutor and this sort of like big folder full of
it's literally a big physical blue folder, and it was like different dates and different pages. So like in a week you have this amount of pages to do, just get them done. And then at the end of every module in the page there would be a tutor marked assessment, a TMA. And you'd do that, and then you'd hand it into a tutor who you were in contact with via email, and that would just be them checking that you're absorbing what you're learning.
They would phone you as well, wouldn't they?
We'd have like that.
This was kind of pre-Zoom.
To check.
Nobody did Zoom.
Making me feel old.
I know. And then so that, and then so I basically bought those, and Amelie kind of started that around the year 9 time, because we knew we were going for things a little bit early. And we found you a French tutor, didn't we? I'm gonna give her a plug, the lovely Sophie Tolomeo at Le Loft Tuitions in Marazion.
And not just from my mum, from me as well, the person who was learning. She was brilliant.
She's amazing. She's
if we're plugging her, does she do online? Can that be, that doesn't, you don't have to live in Cornwall?
So obviously this is back in the day. Amelie was physically there, and actually if you are able to physically go, she's so sweet, and she used to like, she'd been making you kind of like French treats and stuff, and
we'd pause halfway through learning to just drink almond flavored cordial for 5 minutes, and
she
made feelings herself. It was brilliant.
She was brilliant.
Oh gosh, wow.
And, but so that was kind of that was the plan.
Plans change.
And then what we found out was that the French was going to need a little bit longer. So rather than trying to rush that and do it in a year, we decided to just spread it over the 2 years. That gave Amelie a lot more chance to kind of get talking
the
with
thing about
Sophie.
French is learning French in a regular school, your French is full of holes. I've said this before, it's like languages, it's really difficult to teach a group of children who all learn languages different ways, but it was things like, you learn the script as to how to walk into a restaurant, order a baguette and an orange juice, and if the person at the counter doesn't say that's 8.25, then you panic because you haven't learned any other numbers. And I realized I wasn't as good at French as I thought I was, but that's okay. It was, I learned that I knew a lot about some stuff, I knew very little about others. And that first year was basically just spent filling the gaps and making sure I had a strong base to work off of, so that I didn't get to like the beginning of GCSE and go, what's past tense?
Yeah.
And we knew, so I was super keen for Amelie to study international history rather than the Michael Gove.
Yes.
Anglo-centric British history. So doing the international GCSE meant that she could do that, which was great.
That was brilliant.
And you really enjoyed that, and then you did English literature, didn't you? And maths was in the year 10, and we knew that was going to be the difficult one, and so we went for it early.
Get it out of the way.
To get it out of the way.
Yeah.
And it was hard. Daddy, like Rick, worked really hard with you, didn't he?
Yeah.
There were many tears.
Aww.
But we got it.
There's a lot of like sitting down with him one-on-one and him having to explain the same concept to me 8 times because I didn't get it.
Do you think with the maths, was it sort of something just a inner feeling with maths that you had, or was that something that's come from like your primary or secondary school? Was that anything?
Well, I did struggle in the maths. I was in top set maths. I'm not sure if they have sets in others. Yeah. So I was good, but I was never good at just quick fire maths. Like, when you're in primary and you learn.
Still doesn't know how times tables.
I don't. That's the thing.
But you're doing all right though. That's
you could say 8 times 3 and I wouldn't know. I had to stop and get a calculator. And all my friends could go like 4 times 2, 9 times 5, 6 times 6.
I really
and
hope you can do 4 times 2.
I can do 4 times 2. That one is okay. That's my pride and joy. I know what 4 times 2 is. But I could never do that. So I was good, but I was slow, and I also just didn't enjoy it. I never liked. I'm quite artistic. I like open-ended questions. I like being able to take multiple paths to the same answer, or like how in English literature there's not really a wrong answer if you can back it up.
That freaks some people out though, doesn't it?
Some
people are the opposite way, aren't they? Yeah.
Math, it was very like 1 + 1 = 1, and if you it doesn't.
That's why you're so bad at maths.
It's such a, if you get it, like, classes where you have a question and if you don't use the method they want you to use, you're wrong, even if you get the right answer. I never understood that. Surely if I use the simplest method to get the right answer,
the fun of maths,
it should be right.
No, I hear what you're saying. I do. Yeah.
I think it was more of a personal thing for me.
I
was just interested as like to whether
I think also, without putting words into your mouth, I think Amelie's brother was very good at maths. Dad is very good at maths.
I'm not salty.
My maths was all right. I've forgotten everything now. So I think there's that kind of like when you've got someone in the family who's naturally really good at one thing, the other sibling can be sort of like, I am not doing that other thing, even if I might be good at it. Anyway. So that was fine, because we knew maths was a means. Maths, getting a reasonable maths GCSE grade was a means to an end, and that was all it ever had to be.
If you have maths and English, you can pretty much go anywhere.
We would literally have these conversations. There would be tears, and we would be going, Amelie, you just have to do this, and then you never have to do it again for the rest of your life. Just like, it's just a few more months. Let's just do it. Just like,
and it was really just the maths that felt like for you. The rest didn't feel like that.
It was just maths, and again, that was my personal dislike of the subject. And I think had it not been maths, because maths is so essential to everything. You need a maths GCSE, as much as I may not like maths. You need maths GCSE, you need an English GCSE. If it hadn't been maths, I would have dropped it. If I had that dislike for history, I would have gone, I'm gonna do geography instead. But
you can't swap that one out. And how, like, in terms of the Oxford homeschool learning, did that set out like a timetable for you, or how did you timetable your time? And
I actually had difficulty timetabling my time. Time.
Yeah.
But that was a learning experience.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that happened. What in that time period, you know, I'm glad that I had those issues while I was in the middle of studying for my first batch of GCSEs and not like in the middle of A levels, because I would set out a timetable of like, oh, from this time until this time, do some maths.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't do it because I had no direction. It was that just didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, I think my dad mentioned something about a factory in Germany where if you finish the
school in Germany.
Yeah, if you finish the work, you can go home. And
Oh,
I thought,
wow.
maybe it's like, instead of setting from 2 o'clock until 3 o'clock, do maths, I should say, do this page and this page in whatever time it takes me. And if that takes me all day, it takes me all day. If it takes me 2 hours, I finish early.
Yeah.
And that suddenly gave me the motivation.
That unlocked something for you, didn't it?
That discovery of what worked for me really opened up a load of doors. And, you know, for some people, maybe 2 to 3 do maths works for them. But I didn't know that. And I don't think I would have known that had I stayed.
No, I love that. I really love that. It's so true, kind of. Although it is hard for some people, because some things you don't know how long something's going to take you. So it's about, I guess, in that situation, not over planning yourself too much, isn't it?
Yeah, knowing what you can handle.
It did. I think it worked for you, didn't it? Because you broke your work up into little chunks, and then you had that reward of Amelie loves creative writing and just loves it, and she's like writes like prolifically, and so, you know, her reward was if she'd finished whatever it was, you know, maths, French, whatever the homework was, you would set yourself this little target, and then you would have some time where you'd be writing. Or
I would go and do literature tasks from the TMA as a reward for doing the history or something, because that was just what I loved to do. And like that, again, the reward, working toward a reward as well, the carrot, not the stick.
that really worked for you, didn't it? I mean, I don't know if it would work for everybody, but definitely.
And one of the good things about homeschooling is you have the wiggle room to find out what works for you. A less stressed environment, where, because I think one of the problems with school is it's a lot like end goal based. Everything you do in school, outcome in secondary, is pretty much toward your GCSEs. But whereas I had a bit of time to go, okay, I'm going to find myself and find my feet and then run from there.
Which ultimately has got to help you as a young person going into, you know, college, university, future employment. Absolutely. Hasn't it? You know, rather than getting into to the job situation and going, And so I'm assuming you were happy with the GCSEs you got. How did you go about, where did you sit your GCSEs? Because I know that is a big.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah, I'll answer that.
I can't remember for the life of me, because I think I was knee deep in the GCSEs, well, neck deep, and then also being driven around and also studying and also doing this, that, and the other. I couldn't remember for the life of me, so I'll pass over to Mum for this one.
So that was tough, and I don't envy. I'm going to say I don't envy anybody doing it now, trying to find exam centres now, because this was 5 years ago.
Something like that, yeah.
So it was easier. It was easier. It was still difficult, but it was easier. So her first crop of GCSE she took at Mounts Bay Academy, just because I happened to I sent just emails to all the different schools locally and said, do you take external candidates? Like her previous school wouldn't have her, Helston wouldn't have her, but Mounts Bay said yes.
Mounts Bay and Exeter, I think, would have me.
Yeah, there's like a proper exam centre place at Exeter, and I was like, oh God. And Exeter and hotels and stuff.
That was maths, history, and English literature.
Yeah. And so we went there. They were lovely. The exam officer was just delightful, couldn't be more helpful. She was lush. She was brilliant.
I remember her. I gave her flowers.
Yeah, she was so nice. And then the next year, so that was all good. The next year I rang up Mounts Bay, or emailed and I said, okay, can we take this, this and this? And they went, I'm really sorry, we're not taking external candidates. And I was like, oh my God. She said, but I know we promised you to take French, so because we changed exam boards so that she could sit French at Mounts Bay. It was quite complicated. And so she said, but so you can take French, but that's all I can offer. And I was like, okay, thank you, that's amazing. French, yeah. So then I managed to get her into Poole Academy to take her science exams. And then I found out about, so through somebody who'd organised the Silver Arts Award at Red River, she said that Cornwall College were offering kids who are in home education under 16 the opportunity to do a level 2 arts award, which is like an AS level.
Yeah, kind of I think it's midway between a GCSE and an A level.
And you could do it for free, and at the same time you could sit your English and maths GCSEs for free.
Right.
I was like, whoo. So they were like, it was nuts. It was like one of these, it's like there's this secret pot of money which they're not allowed to tell you about, but it's to spend on kids who are not in education under 16, but nobody knows about it. But if you do know about it, you can ring up and you can get them to pay for your maths and English. It's just like, okay. So we sent you off to Cornwall College to do this arts award, and then you were able to do your English language there. That was an interesting experience.
It was eye-opening.
That was a little bit of a change of, so it was 3 days a week, wasn't it?
I had some difficulties with the students there. They weren't particularly fond of me.
It makes you sound like a monster. Basically, they
literally admitted it was because they were jealous of my art.
The kids, who were there were the kids who had failed their English and maths GCSEs and were being forced back to college to resit them and do something else at the same time.
None of them wanted to be there. It was me and one other girl who were actually studying, and it was like they in the, you know how sometimes in class students will be misbehaving, and then the teacher will go, everybody sit down, and everyone will shut up because that means things have gotten serious. Not this school. The teacher would go, everyone sit down, and they would just talk over her. They would throw things across the room. There was a girl who got sent out for throwing a chair, but she just walked back in again and sat down. The teacher couldn't get her to go. There was no respect. It was insane.
It was an interesting cultural moment for you.
I have the benefit of growing up with parents who have the time and energy to kind of invest in me and my education, and also the willingness to. And some of these kids didn't have that benefit, and I met so many lovely people there. I met a girl there who I'm still in contact with. She was so sweet, but some of them just were insane. In a nice way.
No, I'm hearing what you're saying.
Their energy is so high, and you're like, how are you? You're incredible, but you're also a bit scary.
But it's also the 5 counts of monster that they have.
Yeah, but it's incredible.
But so there was a lot of kind of, should she stay, should she not? And we just like, can just try and stick at it, because you'll get your level 2 art, which means that you can go and do A-level art, and also you can sit your English language. In the end, she actually dropped out of the English language classes and just sat her exam, and we did the English.
But that was because that was because one of the boys in the class, I don't know why, but a girl in my art group,
you don't need to go into the specifics, but basically
he was threatening to jump me.
Nice.
So we just went.
I was like,
look, I'm not going, and they were like, you don't have to, as long as you show up to the exam, we trust you.
I'm sure they were very grateful of your data sitting on their
I think they were
anyway. So I can imagine. Sad.
Unhappy.
You got it. You were the girl. She was a bit like like Harry Potter's the boy who lived. Amelie is the girl who got an 8.
And then so from there, what were you wanted to do A-levels, but I'm assuming, did you stay at that college or?
No, I went on to Truro College, and we had the conversation of, what do you want to do, and I had to be honest with myself. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I told myself I knew what I wanted to do, but I kind of had the realization of, is this actually what I want to do, or is it just because I feel like I need to know what I want to do? Because at that age, like GCSEs and A-levels, you're expected to know what you want to do for the rest of your life, which is ridiculous.
Just so young.
16 going on 17. So I just said, I'm going to do the things that I enjoy.
Yeah.
The things that I find fun, and that will lead me into a career that I find fun. So my original plan was politics, English language, fine art. I had my heart set on fine art. I went into English language because I went to the open day and it just sounded so interesting that I signed up. And I was going to do politics, but then I stopped doing the French lessons with this teacher, Sophie, and I realized how much I missed it. You know, even I went a week without speaking French to somebody, and I felt like it was falling apart in my brain, and I missed talking in French and writing in French and thinking in French and having that level of problem solving that comes with speaking a language. So pretty much it was a week before I started, I went, can I transfer from politics to French? And they were like, yeah, sure.
Wow. Yeah, it's good that they were flexible with you. Yeah. And did you enjoy the college experience? Because Truro is a lot bigger than most of our.
It was a bit intimidating at first because my school experiences were of smaller rural schools,
followed by homeschool.
I wasn't used to a larger school like Truro, and going in, the first couple of days were a bit intimidating because I didn't know anybody. Everyone else had friends from their secondary schools that they were going in with. I had no one. But again, you know, if you're in an A-level group with a bunch of people, especially French, we were quite a close-knit group because there's only about 7 or 8 of us all together.
Yeah.
So
and at that stage, you're really choosing what you want to do. So you've all got a bit of a common interest, haven't you?
You're all there because you like the course and you like the subject and you have common interests. And I settled in eventually. It was scary, but it was still fun.
You just cracked on though. I mean, you know, there was, the bus leaves from Mully at 7:30 in the morning. So how many's up at 6:30
every morning?
Most days of the week. I think like you ended up not having to go in on a Wednesday, didn't you? But
second year.
You know, but she just cracked on with it.
And like coming back to what you said about organizing myself being handy in college, absolutely. I think I had a huge jump on my fellow students for the first year or so because they had no idea how to manage their own time. They had no idea, you know, the homework wasn't being handed to them in sheets and saying have this in by Thursday. It was online. You had to go find the homework, do the homework and bring it in without being prompted. And you had to do outside of class work that was just to memorize things. And you know, you had to learn your verb tables, you had to memorize the vocabulary for English language, you had to make art pieces for art. And I would come in with everything prepared because I was used to setting myself a target, getting it done, but they weren't. And that was of no fault of theirs because they've been at school where everything is fed to you.
Yeah. I can imagine that.
Chased up.
Yeah, you're
and
then
and you know, and actually when COVID happened and it all went online, Amelie was like, oh, okay, well, I've done this.
I've done online learning.
I've done online learning. I know how this works. So yeah, let's go. And
again, I was used to being at home. You know, I'd had my month during TMAs and GCSE prep where I'd had my dip of figuring out how to ignore social media, because if I'm working on my computer, Twitter is literally a click away. And it was so hard to avoid distracting myself, but I learned how. And then during Zoom calls and home learning and being stuck in house, I was used to it. I knew how to get on with it. And again, I had a huge leg up on everybody. So it kept seeming like being homeschooled was just giving me advantages on everyone.
Yeah, isn't that funny? And so what happened after your A-levels?
So I got 2 A's and a B. I got 2 A's and a B.
Well done.
I was a bit disappointed in the B in French because I didn't have a very good teacher in my second year of A-level, and I felt like if it weren't for him, I could have gotten an A. But Sophie came in, swooping in at the last minute. I was trailing on like a C, nearly a D, and then we organized seeing her again via calls, and then like within a month I was back to B and A, and I got an A in the conversation, but B in everything else.
Oh.
So, but yeah,
still good in French, still good.
I always wanted to go traveling. I wanted to take a gap year before uni, but COVID happened. and I thought, I don't want to be going to uni during this time.
No.
This is a very bad idea. So I postponed all of the UCAS and everything, and instead I did a foundation art course, which I'm doing right now, because it's free if you do it straight after college.
Yeah.
And it's worth quite a lot in UCAS points, plus it's art. And I was, at the time, I was like umming and ahhing between doing art in uni or creative writing in uni, and I felt like doing a foundation would give me the clarity as to if this was what I wanted to do, because it's a more uni-esque course. And I had that
and who are you doing that with?
Truro College.
It's still Truro College.
Yeah.
I had the realization of, I love art, but this isn't what I want to do for like a career.
No,
it's not for me.
But that's so great that you've worked that out and used your time to your advantage to kind of know that before getting into uni and starting on an art course and thinking, crikey, actually this isn't what I want to do.
Yeah, I think another bonus of homeschooling is you learn that it's okay to not know, and it's okay to make mistakes, so long as there's like any kind of learning from the end of it, because technically it was a quote unquote mistake to do the art course, because I realized I don't want to do art for the rest of my life, but it's given me the clarity to know what I do want to do, which is creative writing. And I've signed up for I've applied for uni courses in creative writing, and they've accepted me, so
great.
You got 4 offers,
I got 4 offers, and
oh my gosh, that's amazing. And so when do you think, when are you looking to start at uni and do your kind of gap year? Is that
I wanted to do my gap year like this summer, sort of once the foundation is over, go traveling, kind of see the world a bit before I end up with too much debt.
Yes.
and then like maybe in September, maybe even next year, if I really want to push it and if I really find my feet while traveling, maybe uni will wait even longer. But
there's so many amazing things to see that actually, you know, really will impact on your life and your career, I'm sure, in lots of positive ways from traveling.
Definitely.
And are you thinking of doing that on your own, or have you got people that want to do it with you? Or
I've got people who want to go. I've got somebody who wants to go to Greece with me, and I've got someone who wants to meet me halfway in France.
I've got a friend in Japan, haven't you?
I've got a friend in Japan. She might be going back to Indonesia soon, so either Japan or Indonesia, depending on what she's doing. So most of it will be with people, because I'm quite a social person. When I enjoy something, I want to share that enjoyment with other people, but I do think a leg of it will be on my own, so I have some experience by myself and traveling by myself and seeing how much I like my own company.
Wow. Is there any advice that you would give other homeschool children in terms of like wanting to gain qualifications?
I would say it's okay to keep your options open. So long as you have like the base of maths and English, you can pretty much go anywhere. I knew a girl who had no GCSEs, and she got into a psychology course in Truro just based purely on her strength of personality and her portfolio of art.
She had to do her maths and English once she was there, but they still gave her a place.
But they gave her a place. It's like, you know, there's no wrong choice, and it's okay to not know. And I would say, if you don't know what to do, go for what you enjoy instead of what you're good at, because if you start doing something you're good at, as soon as you encounter any difficulties, if you don't actually like that, you're going to lose all of your motivation to keep going. But if you're there because you genuinely love and appreciate the course and the subject and the people you're with, then you'll be able to find your footing when you encounter difficulties, and that's the important part.
Very wise words, really. And actually it's kind of lovely to think that people, the sort of next generations, will be doing jobs that they actually love doing, as opposed to kind of like our generation, where it was all about, you know, needing to bring an income in, and you kind of did whatever job would fit within that income, and actually it doesn't make you happy, really, does it? No.
You
Often not.
do you have any advice about for parents? Maybe
My parent, as a parent, I think there's a lot of pressure on young people. They are expected to do 8, 9, 10 GCSEs when they're in school, and I don't think you need to do that as a parent, as an employer. If someone gives me a CV, if someone's got 4 GCSEs or 10 GCSEs, I almost never look. I've in every single CV that's ever come across my desk previously, I think the only thing I've ever checked is what is their standard of maths, what is their standard of English, if their A levels or whatever the next step they took didn't indicate that was, a given. That was the only thing I ever checked. I never checked whether they had science or even it's the design street. Wouldn't even check if they had GCSE design or what they got in that. Even at A level, probably wouldn't even worry about that. That would be like a bonus if if I was recruiting for a marketing role and somebody had a really good A level literature, I'd be like, oh, that's cool, because I know they're quite well read. But again, wouldn't look at it. It's the next thing that you do. It's quite often either the work experience you've got or the degree that you've got, and then the work experience that you've got. That's all that really matters, I feel, to employers, unless you want to be a doctor or a vet or an architect or something. And then you've got to go, okay, I need to get 10 GCSEs, I need to get 4 A's at A level. This is what I need to do because this is the route I'm going down. And that's like, the path you've got to get on for that. There's like expressway that you have to get on.
And you could always take GCSEs again later.
I was going to say that, actually
your life doesn't end when you're 19 and you start your first job. It's like if you did GCSEs in English, maths and geography, but then you realize
you did want to be a doctor.
You realize when you want to be a historian or a doctor, you can just go and take the GCSEs again.
You need to, you just
And I think you were saying about colleges accepting home educated children. I'm really hoping that kind of Collage, the app that I've created, will give young people the opportunity to kind of show who they are, whether or not they've got qualifications. Some of the colleges I've been talking to have been really interested in that, because actually it gives a lovely picture of kind of all of their interests and what they've done. And actually people are generally more interested than that, like you say, having a set of 9 whatever qualification GCSEs. So they were good points to bring up. Thank you.
The government is just totally fixated on that for whatever reason, and it's just
doesn't help.
It's from a business point of view, it's irrelevant usually. Unless it's a really specific job that you're trying to get into.
The three job interviews I've had, they've never asked me about GCSEs or A levels. They've asked me about my extracurricular stuff, which was stuff I pursued because I had time on my hands because I was out of school, like sailing and things like that. It's always, I noticed you've written here that you like sailing. Does that help? It's like, oh yeah, well, I have team building and leadership and problem solving. And they're like, oh great. And then they don't ask about GCSEs because nobody does.
No, they don't. It's the person and the attributes and all of that they've got. So but so I think we've kind of covered everything. I do think it is sad that does seem so hard for home educating families to be able to easily organise and sit these GCSEs should they want to. So I really hope that in the future the government will shake up. I know lots of people are kind of campaigning around that, so let's hope that they make that a bit easier.
And like during lockdown, these home educated students who just had no exams because they didn't do exams, so you just don't get your qualification this year.
Really.
About it. It's like you just really feel completely left out.
But oh my word, you do seem to have worked so hard, and it's been really, really lovely talking to you. You've been so open about your experiences. So
it's nice to be able to share what I kind of did, and I almost said what I went through, but that has very negative implications. I think the possibly the only downside of homeschooling was the social aspect of it, but even then I picked that up quite quickly.
And I do think that that's quite, you know, we're in Cornwall, it's quite rural, it's potentially slightly harder to kind of, and you do, I mean, as a home educating parent, you've really got to get out there and kind of forge opportunities for your children. And I think that's probably, that does feel like it's made harder being in Cornwall. It does feel a bit like you're on Facebook, like, my child likes this, and does anyone want to meet up, and, you know, doing all that kind of, yeah. But you know, I do think, like you say, the whole social, I mean, it is a bit of a misconception that schools are social places, because actually then they're not really, they're timetabled, and, you know, when you do have time to socialize, you're often split up and doing all sorts of other things. So that is that's not as convenient as people.
We were chatting to another somebody who's just finished, like just started homeschooling like this month, and we went to meet them for coffee this morning, and we were just saying, like, school is the only place where you are thrown in with 100 other people your exact same age and told to stay there. And it's like, you know, if I got a job where first of all, my job will be a whole mix of different people at different ages, and then secondly, if I hated all the people there, I would leave my job.
Yeah.
And if I hated my job, I would get a different job. So there's no actual, like Amelie said, except for prison, there's actually no other kind of equivalent thing in adult life. So it's not, you know, and I know, you know, because obviously you get the pushback from family members and stuff when you say, I'm going to home educate my child, and they come up with all these reasons, like, oh, it's really important to get, you know, forge social bonds with like people your own age. And I'm like, well, is it?
Yes.
We all mature at different times.
Yeah.
You know, part of the reason that I think, you know, some people find it harder than others socially is because, you know, you mature at different rates. So like Amelie had matured in lots of ways. You can obviously hear her speaking. She's very eloquent. She kind of came out of the womb like that. So it's like, you know, she's a different level of maturity in some aspects at that age than some of her other. And I'm not saying like she was, you know, there's all different kinds of maturity. Yeah. And I think
that's better than everyone.
I think that makes it more difficult to kind of like mix in sometimes. So why force it? Why would you? It's not.
And equally the kind of you know, some of us thrive on having loads of friends and just being that real social butterfly, and then some of us actually we just need one or two really close friends, and it just, home educating gives you the opportunity to just that it's okay to just kind of and just follow your own,
and you can be friends with grown-ups are all right.
Yeah, I was like 15 or 16 when I started my Red River group, and there were children there who were 19. There was one guy there who was very nearly 20.
You see children, that's adult. Yeah.
There were children there who were 30.
I like that.
Yeah, and some of them were, you know, some of those people I still talk to this day, because you connect on your interests, not your age.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, thank you both of you. It's really great to hear your story, and I wish you, Amelie, all the best of luck with your traveling. Slightly envious of you thinking about that. Gosh, I wish I could go back and do some of that again. And actually I'm excited to hear how that maybe influences or your career, so I shall you have to come back and talk to us about that. And just huge thanks for your time. Really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
And so if you've got any stories that you would like to share, or anything that you would like us to cover, drop us a line at hello@collageapp.co.uk. And until next time, keep calm and enjoy the journey.